Hello and welcome to another episode of Candor with Pres Eve. I am just thrilled to be joined today by John Waite, who is the Executive Director of the Franklin County CDC, and by Tracy Talbert, who is the Racial Justice and Community Engagement Leader for the county. I'm just thrilled to have these two leaders with us today. John, why don't we start with you? You can tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about the work of the CDC. It's certainly not the CDC we've been talking about in the last year and a half, but you can clue us in.
That's right. We are the Franklin County Community Development Corporation, and we've been hearing a lot about the Center for Disease Control. I'm always happy to hear all the good work they're doing, but we are definitely not them. And I must say, I just received my second vaccination this morning, so I'm very excited about the good work the Center for Disease Control and all the health workers have been doing these days. Kudos to them. So I've been the executive director at the Franklin County CDC for 20 years. Very exciting. We do a lot of economic development, mostly work with small businesses, and then we collaborate with other regional organizations to try to address other economic development issues such as housing and employment and education. And we love collaborating with GCC, so we're happy to be here talking with you this morning, Eve, as well. Thanks very much for having me.
Fantastic. Tracy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your work entails?
Well, thank you so much. Again, I am so thrilled to be a part of the Franklin County CDC under John Waite's leadership. I am the new Racial Justice Community Engagement Leader, which is a new position for the Franklin County CDC. And the primary focus is to work with businesses on racial justice issues. We are in the process of using some very prominent and different language around dismantling some of these systems that impact communities, individuals, particularly at the business level. So I'm excited to be working with businesses to help them to kind of delve a little bit deeper into processes, policies, and systems that they may not necessarily be aware of that are directly impacting groups, minority groups, and people of color on a consistent level, and not allowing them the opportunity to advance and to create justice systems for them as the work moves forward. So I'm thrilled and I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. You're both engaging in very important work, and for our businesses, I can imagine how important that is. So let's get to it. Yesterday, we had a historic moment, really, with the guilty verdict against Derek Chauvin in the murder of George Floyd. This has been on my mind all night. I've been thinking about talking to you two about it. I can't think of two better people to have addressed this with us this morning. What are your thoughts? Tracy, can you get us started?
Well, thank you so much. I am thrilled with the results of the trial. Personally, trying to watch it and go back and forth, I really had a hard time kind of keeping my eyes to the screen, but keeping my ears open when I wasn't able to watch the trial as it unfolded. But the verdict, it's thrilling. There's a lot of questions about what's next, and it's definitely setting some precedents around what's going to happen in the criminal justice system as far as police brutality around Blacks. There are still others that their behavior needs to be adjusted through the system, the other cops that were involved. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled about the verdict, but still the question is, what's next?
Exactly. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, again, we all were very nervous because we know what's happened in the past, and so many police haven't been held accountable. So we were all very nervous, but this result is starting to at least shed some truth on things. This couldn't be ignored. I mean, just the videos that were there and the public outcry for a just verdict, has just been tremendous. So obviously we're really happy with this call. And what's next is the biggest thing. I listened to a lot of news last night, and I was just so sort of proud and just felt so good. Our vice president came out. A Black woman was the first one to speak. She spoke in front of the president last night, and I remember one thing she said is, "This is a measure of justice. It's one measure of justice. It's not justice. Justice it shouldn't have happened in the first place." But at least it's a step in the right direction. And there's a lot of signs that things are going this opened a huge wound in our society in the past year. The sort of the public outcry, I think, has been enormous, and we need to keep that going. And that's where, you know, we can talk about the police, we can talk about what's happening in our nation, but I also think I reflect back on what we can do at the local community level. Each of us has a role to play in ending systemic racism, which is the root cause of this. And so we can't just say, oh, great, the court system did something well. We have to work day in, day out at the root causes of this. And, you know, as a community member, working in collaboration with other community groups, you know, we want to stick with this. And so, Eve, I'm really interested also, the GCC has a big role to play in our community. You know, you've been outspoken, which we really appreciate. You put yourself out there. So, I mean, this is going to be something that's going to be around the GCC community too. So I'm wondering if you want to have something to share also.
Yeah, we're bringing our community together on Friday to talk about the meaning of all of this. I've really been disheartened during this period to see the level of violence that has been that we've seen in the videos, and certainly this has been going on for a very long time. But now that we have evidence, we have video evidence, and we're all sort of grounded in our homes, and we're able to watch these images over and over again, and it really gets to our consciousness. So as one who is in higher education, I think it's really important that we start to educate people around not just these incidents that are horrible. I certainly hope for a world where we don't have to have, you know, this level of elation around verdicts, and what we need to get rid of is the behavior to begin with. The people who are entrusted with protecting us should be protecting us and not killing us and not killing people of color. And certainly the violence that's been targeted against the communities of color, Asian American and Pacific Islanders, Black and Brown people has just reached a level that is really intolerable. I think all of us are saying that, and it starts with education. And starts with fostering an environment of care, of compassion, of understanding, and of appreciation for difference. And we are certainly seeing a difference at the helm of the country in this administration versus the prior administration. So, you know, I feel a sense of relief. I agree with you that there's more work to be done. And I'm also heartened for where we go from here and moving forward. So.
Can I just say one more thing? I just wanted to kind of put some focus on what was mentioned in the paper yesterday around the activism and the movement has not been anything more powerful since the civil rights movement. So I really believe that those voices and people coming together in more significant ways than ever really played a role in how the verdict the outcome of the verdict played out. So I just want to just share my kudos and my appreciation for those who really fearlessly played a role in marching and talking and showing up in those spaces when we really needed to hear voices.
Yeah, and in the middle of a pandemic, it takes courage. It takes courage. So let's bring it to our community. I want to talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing in the Welcoming and Belonging group. And John, I know you're a founding member of that group. You were one of the people who said, we need to make our community better, and we need to make our community more welcoming, and we need people of color to start to feel a sense of belonging here. Can you tell us a little bit about the work of that group?
So this group is, we call it Welcoming and Belonging, and it was really us regional leaders from the president of GCC, the FERCOG, the Housing Authority, Community Action, the employment. We get together about quarterly to sort of talk about issues that overlap our different segments. Like I say, we do small business, but that's related to housing, that's related to employment and education. So we meet quarterly, and probably about 3 or 4 years ago, we really started looking at, you know, Franklin County is not very diverse as far as race and ethnicity goes. And we used to say, well, that's the way it is. But then we started asking more questions. Why is it that way? And so we came up with this welcoming is we need to be more welcoming. Maybe that's part of the issue, and make sure that people feel like they can belong here. We think it's a beautiful place to live and work. Everybody should be able to feel like that. So we met several times, and then we put out this, and then we had some business leaders who were also saying that, we're part of the Pioneer Valley, up and down. People should be able to feel more freely about coming and going for employment, for recreation, for all kinds of things. And so we really wanted to focus on this welcoming and belonging. We talked about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. But then as we got further into it, we really started to say the root cause here is racism and systemic racism and white supremacy. So over the sort of 3 years, we've sort of moved a little bit from just being, isn't diversity a nice thing, which is great, but also really looking at the white supremacy culture that we have here and how can we change that? And that is going to take longer, and it's going to take more work, and it's going to open up some things that some people don't want to talk about, but we agreed we need to talk about it. So we were meeting then, there's about 18, 20 of us that meet every other month or every 3 months and talk about these issues. And then we saw an opportunity to actually make it more intense, and we were able to get some grant funds, and we were able to hire Tracy then to really make sure that this is something that's going to continue for a while. We're not just going to talk about it and then forget about it. We're going to really focus on this. And so we actually have 5 years of funding. So we know that the work Tracy's starting is going to continue, and it's going to grow. We're going to involve so many more people, and we're just really excited about it. And it's getting at the root causes, getting into businesses, getting into organizations, looking at our personnel policies, looking at our financial policies at banks, and looking at how we hire people. There's just so much to it, but we're going to sustain it. And so, Tracy, we're so happy to have you. You bring a lot of experience to this. Your background fits really well. You have worked at banks in the past. You see some of the pros and cons, and thank you very much for being here. And if you want to sort of add to that.
Absolutely. And when I first heard that a group called Welcome and Belonging was established to kind of support the work of racial justice and the business community, I envision what welcome and belonging really means. Did you just come up with a title to impress the community? What does welcome and belonging really mean? And from a business perspective, one of the biggest challenges in the next 20 years businesses are going to face is managing their diverse workforce. So that is the same concept. I'm really hoping that the welcoming, not hoping, I don't want to use any of those words, that the welcoming and belonging group needs to embrace, because bringing people in is one thing. What happens when they get here? So that welcome and belonging, we really need to take a look at what's happening, why it's happening, and to get to work on some actionable next steps and charting and talking. Like, honestly, I think we're really past charting best practices and talking about next moves. So I'm really getting the group involved in doing things, doing exercise, and then not just come together to share ideas and to kind of highlight what's happening, because we already can see what's happening. I'm proud of the conversations and the work and the commitment. I see Greenfield Community right now as the poster child for the Welcome and Belonging group for other counties. And I'm really, at the depth of my soul, I really believe that this is the right time, this is the right group, and the right work that's happening right now, so that we can set an example for other communities. And the last thing I want to say about this, we want to move past, stop talking about how challenging this work is, how much time it's going to take. You can keep it here, but stop saying it, because you give yourself permission to stay in this place and not really think about moving forward. And I just read an article the other day. It says change can't wait. We can't wait. So let's really begin to move to action. And I'm going to hold people accountable to moving. I'm going to be sure that those conversations are leading us to actionable next steps. So I'm proud to be here.
That's great. That's great. And we're delighted to have you here, Tracy. You're doing great work. So speaking of great work, John, the CDC has been very successful at securing funding to help farmers, to help food businesses in particular, and to get more healthy food, not just here in our rural areas, but also extending to low-income, more urban areas during this pandemic. And you've really served as a model and as a collaborator for other communities. Can you tell us a little bit about the resources that you've collaborated on securing? And we want to know your secret sauce. What's the magic?
I would say, first off, collaboration is the secret sauce. It's not rocket science. It's talking to people, it's communicating, it's sharing what resources we might have, and just, and the dialogue is, it's not about dividing up the pie among more players. It's making that pie bigger, as we always like to say, and including people. So over 20 years ago, we started the Western Mass Food Processing Center. And the reason why we did that is because Western Mass is a lot of agriculture out here, and we wanted to highlight that and make it even more economically sustainable, especially for farmers, so they could add value to their produce, whatever they grow in their field. And then over the years, we started looking at, we want to support our farmers, who a lot of them are actually low income. A lot of the farmers have more debt than they should have, and that's just the structure of our food system, is the cheap food that comes from outside the area. It pushes prices down for our local farmers. So we're working on that. But at the same time, we have a lot of eaters in Western Mass, and the eaters need healthy food, and they can't pay, high prices, too high prices for healthy food. So how can we balance those two? And it's a tough nut to crack, because you do want farmers to get the best price, but you need eaters to be able to afford it too. So we're working with a lot, and that takes a lot of collaboration. We're working with the state. They have the Healthy Incentive Program. We're working with hospitals and insurance companies. The whole food is medicine is starting to take on some, we'll hear more about that, where instead of paying for drugs, our insurance company should be paying for healthy food so people can eat it and not have to get the drugs later on. So there's a lot going on, and I think we're right in the center of it, because we do have both, like the agriculture and the eaters. And when we look at up and down the Pioneer Valley, and so I think Franklin County, a lot of people out of Boston don't think about us for a lot of reasons, but they do know that they get some food from us. So that's something that we can use to try to engage more people in the city too. So we're really focused on that. We work a lot with CISA, who's fantastic, working with small farmers in particular. And then with the state, the Department of Agriculture has been very supportive of our work. And, this gets back, this isn't separate from some of the other anti-racism work we're doing, because it's often Black and brown communities that don't have access to food.
That's right.
One of my friends in Springfield, she talks about 10 McDonald's are closer to her house than a healthy food store. We need grocery stores. We need corner stores that sell healthy food that are close to people, instead of being, that they have to get in a car, which they might not have to drive to, and yet the junk food is too close to them. So these issues are all, tangled together.
I'm glad to see the way that you connect access to healthy food to racism, to other to equity and other justice issues. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy working with you. You think system-wide, and it's been great to collaborate with you, John. And so we know that your secret sauce is collaboration. So when you call us to the table, we should always answer that call.
Well, Eve, I got to tell you, I just heard 2 days ago, I think, that we got a grant that's with you and Launch Space out in Orange and the CDC to do some systems work around the food system in Franklin County and throughout Western Mass. So again, another example of, by working together, we're going to bring more resources to the area.
Exactly. I'm so thrilled for that. And we'll talk a little bit later about the Rural Innovation Center that we are starting at GCC, but in collaboration with so many other community partners. Launch Space has been so integral to that. You have been so integral to that. And I look forward to a future conversation where we put that center stage. We've also gotten so much support, so much help from our delegation, our legislative delegation. We've been very, very, very lucky in so many realms with this initiative.
Yeah.
So my last question to you both relates to ginger libation. John, I love ginger libation. I love kombucha, and they are right there in your facility. How do you even work You know, you have them right there. So how does that happen? Are we still producing kombucha and ginger libation? Have we been full throttle during this pandemic, or have we taken a step back? What's going on?
You know, the pandemic can slow people down, but it's not going to stop them. And so they're still producing. A lot of our food businesses they slowed down a little, but they're still cranking out the product. Ginger Libation switched from putting their libation into kegs, which the kegs were going to restaurants. Since the restaurants weren't open, they started putting them in cans, and the cans are available all over at retail stores all over the place. So
And bottles.
And the good sized bottles. And I'm trying to turn Tracy onto it, but
Tracy, what's the deal? You don't like ginger libation?
I know I don't have the taste for it, but you know what? I'm in support of locally produced products. So I mean, I support them. I actually brought a whole case and delivered them as Christmas presents, and everybody that I provided it to, they loved them. And people were calling. I actually got a call the other day that they like the cranberry the best. So I have another order coming in.
And just in case people don't know, it's called Artisan Beverage Cooperative, and they make the Catalyst kombucha and they make the ginger libation. And you know, they're a cooperative, a worker-owned cooperative, and I just want to sing the praises of worker-owned cooperatives, because this is part of our systematic for the economic, industry. Cooperatives is one of the responses that I think it's taking off here in Western Mass pretty well, and we need it other places because it does bring some equity to the economic system. And you know, Tracy, right when she came, we were calling this a racial justice project, but she said, no, it's not a project, it's a movement. And you talked about it earlier, Tracy. And I think cooperatives and businesses have a real big part to play in our movement for a more equitable society.
It's great. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed having you both. Tracy, I don't know if you have any last words for us to wrap us up.
Probably, yes. I'm just, again, thrilled to be here, to actually be a participant in the racial justice movement and be on a level playing ground when we talk about white supremacy, and have people embrace that. And when we talk about dismantling white norms, and have people be okay with that and not be offended by it, and really begin to stop and pause and say, hey, yeah, there's something here with regards to systemic racism. So, and Eve, thank you so much. I met you 2 years ago, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to know you as a Black woman leader, the president of the college. You are connected, committed, and sincere in every way that you show up. So I am just thrilled to know you, and thank you for having me on this show.
Oh, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us. This was another episode of Candor with Pres Eve, and we look forward to having you next time. Many thanks to my guests, John Waite and Tracy Talbert. Have a great day.